I had just finished work, and it was a crappy day, so I went to Duke's bar to relax with a drink. I was halfway through my vodka tonic when she walked in. She's my wife's best friend, Addison. I sat in the corner, where it was a little dark, and hoped that Eddie wouldn't notice me. No luck. She looked around the room as if she was looking for someone in particular, saw me and headed in my direction, and I thought, damn, this is exactly what I was missing right now. She came up to me and asked if I minded if she joined. The honest answer would have been yes, but I simply shrugged and pointed to the seat opposite. As soon as Addie sat down, Marcia came over and asked what Addie would like to drink, and then went to the bar to get it. As soon as Marcia left, Addie said, "It's no coincidence that I'm here. I was going to wait for you in the car when you got home from work, but I got stuck in traffic. Arrived just in time to see you get in the car and drive away, so I followed you here. Why did you need to meet me after work? We need to talk about the situation we find ourselves in." Situations? Are you and I? Yes, and I'll say it straight. Your beloved wife is cheating on you. I know. I've known this for about 6 months now. I just don't understand why this bitch's best friend feels like she has to snitch on her friend. The bastard she's cheating on you with is my husband. I thought she was an even bigger bitch than I thought. Harvey wasn't the one she had sex with when I first found out she was cheating on me. You don't even know half of it, honey. She's been cheating on you since the day you started dating in high school. Since then, I thought it started recently, maybe a year ago or so. I thought you and I were friends, Eddie. If you knew about this for so long, why didn't you warn me? I consider you a friend, Jerry, but you have to remember that I only met you in the 11th grade. Cindy has been my best friend since first grade. I never approved of what she was doing to you, and I tried countless times to get her to stop before she got caught. I tried to convince her that she could lose you, but she always brushed it off, saying that you would never leave her, no matter what she did. That you love her so much that you will forgive her everything just to keep her. She was half right. Half right? What do you mean? I will stay with her, but there will be no forgiveness. Why do you need to stay with her? I talked to a divorce lawyer and found out what would happen if I filed for divorce. This is a no-fault divorce state. Everything we have will be divided in half. She will receive child custody and alimony. She will stay in the house until Alan turns 18, and I will have to continue paying the mortgage, insurance, utilities, and house maintenance. I will also be required to pay child support because I earn more than her. After all these payments, I will barely have enough money left to buy a tent and live somewhere in the forest. I'll have to get used to living on ramen and water. The only bright side is that the alimony will stop if Cindy gets married again, and when Alan turns 18, I can sell the house. Even then, I'll have to give her half. So what are you going to do? Nothing. Nothing. Yes. Carry on as usual until Alan turns 18, and then I'll leave this bitch. As long as she doesn't know I'm aware, I'll have sex, home-cooked food, clean laundry, and time with the kids. By the way, all 3 are mine. I did the DNA tests without telling Cindy. She always claimed that she was so careful that you would never know anything. How did she make a mistake? She gave me a venereal disease. I didn't know what it was until I went to the clinic, but as soon as they told me what it was, I knew Cindy was cheating. She is the only woman I have touched since we started dating. When I found out she was cheating on me, I hired a private investigator to find out the truth, and he found out that she was having sex with her boss. I don't know whether she infected him or not. Based on what you just said, she could have gotten it from anyone. As far as I know, she is still a carrier of the disease and may be infecting others. This means that Harvey could have been infected, and he, in turn, passed it on to you. You should get checked. I thought doctors were required to get a list of everyone you slept with so they could call them for an examination. I was checked at the clinic. I had no intention of going to the family doctor. When I took the test, I told them that the only sex I'd had in the last 2 years was with a paid sex company at a convention in Miami. Plus, if I gave them the name Cindy, they would call her in to heal her, which would prevent her from infecting the people she's cheating on me with. I didn't want this. It would be fair. She deserved to be punished for cheating on me. And you still make love to her. I laughed. I don't make love to this bitch, I just use it. When I returned from the clinic, I told her that the doctors said I had a rare skin condition caused by the prostate, and the doctor advised me to always use a condom during sex. The stupid fool believed it. She doesn't like condoms, so our sex has dropped from 6 or 7 times a week to 2 or 3. I think she would stop having sex with me altogether if she could, but she's smart enough to know that if she does, I'll start wondering if she's getting it somewhere else. Alan is only 8. Can you last another 10 years? I don't know, but I have to try. The only other option is divorce, and we all know how fathers suffer when it comes to child custody. Maybe when James and Carol grow up, I can stop this. Alan will be 16 then, and I can probably handle the terms of the divorce 2 years before he comes of age. And there's always a chance that Alan might choose to live with me if Cindy and I break up. In this state, a child at the age of 16 has the right to choose which parent he wants to live with. For now, I'll just have to wait and hope that Cindy gets hit by a bus so I can collect life insurance on her. What are you going to do about Harvey? Don't know. I haven't encountered him yet. I decided to do you a favor and tell you everything before I incriminate him. I think when I lash out at him, it'll all come out because after Harvey, I'll deal with my ex-best friend and then it'll go public and you'd know. I just wanted to prepare you. Thanks for taking care of me. But you've piqued my curiosity and I'd like to know more about what you know about Cindy's dealings. I want to understand how she could have cheated on me since we started dating and I had no idea about anything. Damn, Eddie, that's 16 years. I just can't believe that she could deceive me for so long and I didn't notice anything. What can I say, dear? You loved this bitch so much that you were blind to her flaws. You either didn't notice or ignored the signs. Because you loved her so much that you could not even think that she was not the ideal wife and mother that you imagined her to be. Of course, I also have nothing to say in my defense. I also thought Harvey was the perfect husband until I found out he was sleeping with Cindy. How did you catch them? Harvey called and said that he would be late at work and that I should not wait for him for dinner. I decided to go shopping since he wouldn't come home and went to the mall. While driving by your house, I saw Harvey's car in your driveway. Naturally, I became interested and I parked. I'm not some stupid girl and I understood what was happening almost immediately. I knew Cindy was an easy bitch and that Harvey works late, but his car is parked outside your house. For me, 2 and 2 always add up to 4. You know how Cindy and I are, we never ring or knock on the door. We just walk in and shout, "Where are you?" Expecting to hear in response, "I'm in the kitchen," or "I'm in the basement." But I was almost sure that I would find it when I entered, so I decided not to make any noise. They were so noisy that they wouldn't have heard me anyway. The noise came from the bedroom, and I went up there. The door was ajar. I looked in and saw what I expected, and then I left. I admit I was very close to bursting in there and attacking both of them, but I'm not that stupid. I knew I couldn't hurt them much, and that Harvey would hurt me even more when he started defending himself. I decided that I could hurt him more through the divorce and Cindy through you by telling you what she really is like. It was probably the night I was in Dallas for a seminar. So that there is nothing to hide in court, I hired a private detective to find me evidence. He found out that they met at the motel on their lunch breaks. Do you need to go home? Not really. And what? Would you like to have dinner with me? You can tell me everything I didn't know about my devoted and loving wife. I can do it. I'll call Harvey and tell him I'll be late at work. If he can do it, then I can do it too. For a second, I wondered if she meant that if Harvey was cheating, then she could too, but I quickly dismissed that thought. Addie was a very attractive woman, but I was not ready for such steps. Over dinner, Eddie told me everything she knew about Cindy's adventures. In our younger years, when we started dating and had sex for the first time, I was sure that I had found my soulmate, and I was sure that she felt the same. I was working on my Uncle Wendell's farm during the summer holidays, and according to Eddie, While I was plowing the fields on my Uncle Wendell's farm, Cindy was busy being plowed at home by guys I considered my friends. And as Addie said, they continued to have my wife whenever they could. I was surprised to learn that Cindy liked threesomes and sex parties and organized them whenever I was away on a business trip. She had the first sex with several guys that I know of at her bachelorette party. We went to a bar where there were male dancers. After the establishment closed, she slept with 5 of them. I don't think she planned this. She chose one for one last adventure before the wedding and was having sex with him in the back room when another dancer entered the room. When the first guy finished, the second guy took his place, and Cindy didn't mind, so he started. The first guy, seeing that Cindy wasn't complaining, told the others, and the others entered the room. I don't think she even realized that the first guy left and the second guy replaced him. She was too drunk and still recovering from the pleasure when the second one started. After that, everything started to turn around, and the 5 guys did their job. And you just stood there and watched? Of course not. While Cindy was with the first one, I trained one of the other dancers, but when he finished, I abandoned the rest. And no, I don't feel guilty. I didn't have a ring on my finger, I wasn't dating anyone, and I hadn't even met Harvey yet. The next day, having sobered up, Cindy admitted that she would like to repeat it sober, but I didn't think that she would really go for it. I sincerely believed that by marrying you, she would stop her affairs and become a good wife, but I was wrong. 3 days later, after your honeymoon, she slept with Tim Wilson and convinced him to invite her to his bachelor party as entertainment. You couldn't go because you were on a business trip. She had a sexy dance and then slept with all 12 guys who were at the party. I didn't see it, but she told me everything the next day. She really enjoyed it and said she would find ways to do more parties like this. I sat in shock at the scale of it all. 16 years old, and I had no idea. I took out a pen, grabbed a napkin, and asked Eddie to name everyone she knew who had definitely slept with my wife. I wrote them down as she said the names, and by the time she was done, I had a veritable who's who of people I grew up with, went to school with, and considered my friends. That's everyone I know for sure, Addie said when she finished listening. I need to ask you a favor, Eddie. Which? I don't want you to tell Cindy that I know all this. Please don't mention what you told me when you confront her about Harvey. I need to think carefully about what you told me, and I would prefer that Cindy continue to think that I live in blissful ignorance. You're not fat at all, dear. That was a figurative expression, Eddie, but you can't argue with the fact that I was dumb and unsuspecting. I would be glad if you could tell me how her reaction will be when you encounter her. I'll do it in a day or two. Today, I'm going to deal with Harvey and then give him time to tell Cindy that they've been found out. I want her to know what awaits her when I meet her. We left the restaurant and went our separate ways. On the way home, I wondered if I could pretend that all was well in my world, or if I would reveal that I now knew the whole truth. I was confident I could handle it when I only knew about her boss, but now, knowing everything Addie had said, I wasn't so sure. I was lucky that Cindy was not home when I arrived, which gave me time to get my emotions in order. I thought about which of my friends she had in bed right now, until I remembered that today was the day Cindy took Carol to music lessons and James and Alan to taekwondo practice. Then I had a thought. What if she drops off the kids, meets one of her lovers, and then comes back and takes the kids? I wonder if I might notice anything if I have sex with her tonight. I tried to remember all the times I had sex with her after I found out about her trips to the hotel with her boss, but I didn't remember anything unusual in her behavior. However, it dawned on me. How could I even notice if she seemed to be cheating on me with someone since the moment we started dating 16 years ago? I took a beer from the refrigerator and sat down at the kitchen table. I took out the list of names that Eddie had given me and, sipping my beer, began to make plans for revenge on all those bastards whom I considered my friends. Some will be easy to get, others not so easy, but I promised myself to take revenge on every single one of them. I was still going over the list and making plans when Cindy and the kids got home. I put the list in my pocket and prepared for an Oscar-winning performance at playing the loving husband. I managed to spend the evening in such a way that Cindy did not have any suspicions. The next day, Addie called me at work. She said she ran into Harvey and things didn't go as planned. It ended with them shouting at each other, and the argument escalated into a fight. Harvey hit her. She called the police, and when they arrived, Harvey said she attacked him and he was just defending himself. The police asked her if it was true, and then Eddie took out a voice recorder, which she hid in order to record the conversation and then show it to Cindy when she ran into her. The police listened to the recording, handcuffed Harvey, and took him away. That bastard even tried to blame it all on me. He said that if I weren't such a stupid person in bed, he wouldn't have to look for satisfaction on the side. My plan failed. He should have called Cindy and let her know that I knew everything so that she would panic at the thought of meeting me. But now Harvey won't be calling anyone anytime soon, unless it's to find someone to get him out of jail. And it certainly won't be me. The situation has changed for me. I've already talked to a lawyer, and as soon as Harvey gets out, they'll put a restraining order on him to keep him away from me and the house. He will also be served with divorce papers. I called Cindy 10 minutes ago and suggested we meet after work for a drink. I'm going to face her, so you can prepare for her to be on edge when you get home. I'll hint to her that I'm so angry at her for her betrayal that I might tell you what a woman of easy virtue she is. I'll be surprised if she's even home when I get there. She'll probably be too nervous and won't want me to notice because then I'll start asking questions. Don't forget to call me and tell me how she reacts. I'll definitely call. See you. It had been a busy day at work, and I pushed thoughts about Cindy and our situation to the back of my mind and focused on business. I ended up staying at work longer than usual and was about to leave when the bell rang. I sat down at the table again and picked up the phone. It was Eddie. She had just met with Cindy. Would you like a drink? Meet me at Duke's in 10 minutes. She arrived 5 minutes after me, and her drink was already waiting on the table. She sat down and said, "Okay, tell me how it went." "I'd better show you everything," she said, and took out the recorder from her purse. "You will hear everything yourself." She put the recorder on the table, pressed the play button, and took the glass in her hand. I heard the waiter taking her order, then some guy trying to hit on her, and then I heard my wife's voice. "Hello, friend. What's happened?" "Nothing special. I just need to talk to you about a problem I'm having." "Speak up. I'm always ready to listen to you, Eddie." "Harvey is in prison. He hit me yesterday, and I called the police. I'm going to charge him with assault." "Harvey hit you. Why could he do such a thing?" "He got mad at me when I confronted him about having sex with you." "What? Are you completely crazy? Me and Harvey? Where did you get this from? I saw you having sex with him on your bed on the 14th. To obtain evidence for the divorce, I hired a private investigator, and he found out that you regularly meet at the motel for lunch breaks. The only reason I met you today is because I think ending a 27-year friendship needs to be done in person. You're not serious." "How serious, you stupid bitch? You were supposed to be my best friend, but instead you stuck a knife in my back while having sex with my husband. And this, of course, is serious. You don't understand. I didn't want this, but I had to." "Don't talk nonsense. I'm not lying, Eddie. I really had to. Harvey came to me and said he was tired of watching me have sex with everyone, and now it was his turn. I laughed and told him to go to hell. Then he said that if I didn't satisfy him, he would tell Jerry everything I did behind his back. I couldn't let this happen. Jerry wouldn't understand and probably wouldn't forgive. Although I think he loves me enough to forgive me, I couldn't risk it. You know how much I love Jerry. I can't lose him." "This is all nonsense, Cindy. You should have come to me right away, as any true friend would do, and we would have sorted out the problem together. But of course you couldn't do that, could you? Oh no, you're not like that. You forgot that I know you inside and out. You thought, oh cool, another guy I haven't tried before, and I'll have an excuse if my friend Addie ever finds out. No, Cindy, you knew it was wrong, and you did it anyway. I'm so angry with you now that I'm seriously considering telling Jerry about all your adventures, starting from the moment you got together with him. The only reason I can't do this is because Jerry is such a good person, and I don't want to cause him the pain that would come from realizing that the woman he loves is just an unprincipled, easy girl. On the other hand, maybe I'll do him a favor by giving him a reason to finally get rid of you. So congratulations, Cindy. You not only destroyed my marriage, but you also killed the friendships that I once considered valuable. Following this, the sounds of Cindy's sobs were heard, and then her voice fading in the background. Don't go, Eddie, we need. And the recording stopped. Eddie turned off the recorder and said, do you know what's the worst thing about all this? I know she really loves you to bits, and losing you would probably kill her. On the other hand, seeing her suffer would give me considerable satisfaction. So what now? The plan remains the same. I continue to pretend that I don't know anything until the children grow up, and then I'll leave her. You don't have to wait. There is another way. Which? You don't have to live in a tent and eat ramen. I now have an empty space at home, and I'm a pretty good cook. And just imagine how hard it will hit the bitch you live with me. It's very tempting, but it doesn't solve the main problem. I don't want to be separated from my kids, and with the way the courts are tilting in favor of women in divorces, she'll probably get custody, and I don't want to be the dad who sees the kids on a schedule. So I have to continue living with Cindy. Do you like sex with a condom? Not really, but it's a necessary evil when it comes to sex with this bitch. I don't like condoms either, and I don't need them for contraception. Harvey and I didn't have children because I can't get pregnant. I have problems with pipes. I offer you friends with benefits. That again sounds tempting, but I don't think it will work. Cindy would probably find out, and it would jeopardize my plans to hang on until the kids were grown. We could make sure she never found out. Like the measures she took so that I would never find out. There's always something you don't think about or don't expect that then bites you in the ass. I can't risk it, Eddie. If it weren't for the kids, I would happily accept your offer, but I can't do anything that would jeopardize my future with the kids. Then stay in touch. Who knows, maybe she will actually be hit by a bus, and you will be freed. Before I left, she gave me a tape of the recorder and said that perhaps I could find a use for it. When I got home, my loving wife did seem a little tense. In fact, as my grandfather said, she was nervous, like a cat with a long tail in a room full of rocking chairs. I was in the mood to play some psychological games with Cindy, so I decided to do it. After a greeting hug and kiss, I asked, have you talked to Eddie lately? I noticed her face turn slightly pale before she said, no, why do you ask? Do you remember my friend Wally? He's a policeman. Yes, he was with us for a couple of barbecues. I ran into him today. He knows how close you and Eddie are and asked me if I knew Harvey had been arrested. He said Harvey went to jail for beating Eddie. I was just wondering if you'd talked to her. I'm very curious because I always thought their marriage was as strong as ours. The only reason he would hit her would be if he caught her cheating. And the very thought of it is funny. Addie wouldn't cheat on him, just like you wouldn't cheat on me. If there's one thing I'm absolutely sure of, it's that you and Eddie are the most faithful wives in this town. By the way, what's for dinner? Over dinner, the children told us about their day at school and what was going on in their lives. After dinner, the kids went to do their homework, and I helped clear the table and load the dishwasher. When I finished, I casually said, why don't you call Eddie? I really wonder why Harvey went to prison. I left the kitchen and headed to the garage to work on the lawn mower. I'd bet good money that Cindy would avoid me all evening so I couldn't ask her if she'd talked to Eddie. But I would lose. As soon as I got back to the house, she said she tried to call Eddie, but either she wasn't home or wasn't answering her phone. I'll try again in the morning. I could have pressed her a little to make her nervous, but I decided not to. If I pushed too hard, the situation could get out of control and become public, and I don't want that. Cindy must remain ignorant for my plan to work. But there was one thing that worried me. What would Harvey do when he got out of prison? I didn't think he would come to me and confess, but who knows what a stupid man can do, especially after he showed his stupidity by hitting his wife. For me, this is the act of a not entirely normal person. Cindy had just finished explaining that she couldn't reach Eddie when the phone rang. I picked up the phone, said hello, and heard a recorded message asking me to support Proposition 3 in the upcoming elections. I knew I shouldn't do this. I had already decided not to put pressure on Cindy, but I just couldn't resist the opportunity to tickle her nerves. My only excuse is that I probably had a temporary blackout. Oh, hi, Eddie. We were just talking about you. Cindy is trying to contact you. We heard that Harvey is in prison. This is true. Is it true? Certainly. What about the Village Inn on Wilcox? Cindy is here. Do you want to talk to her? Okay, see you tomorrow. I hung up. Harvey is really in jail for beating her. Who would have expected this? I was about to leave the room, but Cindy asked, what was it about tomorrow at the Village Inn? She asked me to meet her for lunch. She says she needs my advice on something. I left the room and headed upstairs to shower before bed. I felt Cindy's gaze on me and wondered what was on her mind right now. On the way up, the thought occurred to me that it would be nice to record our further conversations with Cindy. I stopped in the room I had turned into a home office study, picked up the mini recorder I was using to take notes, and went into the bedroom. Setting the recorder on the chest of drawers, I undressed and went into the shower. When I got out of the shower, Cindy was sitting on the edge of the bed with her arms crossed and her eyes filled with tears. She looked at me with a look I had never seen before and asked, "Do you love me, Jerry? I mean, really, really love." I turned to the dresser, took clean pajamas, and, hiding behind my body, turned on the recorder. Turning to her, I replied, "I would have thought that the last 16 years would answer that question. Have I ever given you any reason to doubt that in all these years? No, not at all, but what I'm really asking is, do you love me enough to forgive me for doing terrible things behind your back?" I didn't want this. I wanted to avoid this at all costs, but I myself led to this. I shouldn't have made that stupid phone call scene. It's all my fault, so I took a deep breath and said, "No, Cindy, I don't love you enough to forgive what you did." Did you know? It's pretty hard not to know when the only woman you've slept with for the last 16 years gives you gonorrhea. Her face turned pale and she whispered, "Because of condoms." Yes, I was cured and decided that I no longer wanted to get infected again. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked with even greater horror in her voice. "Why did I have to do this? So that you get rid of the disease. If you were cured, you wouldn't be able to infect those who slept with you. And I wanted them to suffer their punishment for having sex with my wife behind my back. Do you know why Chuck Myers and Bill Denton got divorced? You gave them something that is passed on, and it seems their wives were not happy when they passed it on to them. I didn't know if it was true or not, but their names were on the list Addie gave me, and they both got divorced within the last 4 months. You knew and still continued to make love to me," she continued. "I'm not making love to you, Cindy," I said coldly. "I just had you. And these are different things. Why are you still here? Why didn't you do anything when you found out?" "I did something. I hired a private investigator, and he found out that you were sleeping with your boss in motels during lunch breaks. I took this evidence and went to a lawyer to inquire about a divorce. The lawyer explained to me that my life would get much worse if I decided to get a divorce. What he said convinced me that it was better for me to endure and continue to live as I am. That's the whole story. We continued to live as usual." "Are you serious? You're not going to leave me?" she asked in surprise. "No, I'm not going to leave. Even if what you know is just the tip of the iceberg. It doesn't matter, Cindy. The life I will lead after the divorce will be too dull to even think about. Okay, then you don't have to meet Eddie tomorrow. She wanted to meet to tell you everything. She was going to do it because she caught me and Harvey. Harvey is in jail because Addie confronted him, and he got angry and hit her. She called the police and plans to press charges against him. To get back at me, she's going to tell you everything. She's going to tell you." Here she fell silent and began to tell the whole truth. Cindy admitted to some things that I realized even Eddie didn't know about. She named names that weren't on Eddie's list, and if they were, that list would have been twice as long. When Cindy finished, I just looked at her, not believing my ears. Why didn't you just come to me and tell me I wasn't right for you? We could have separated before the wedding. You could have saved us 16 years of lies. I married you because I love you and wanted to be your wife, and I still love you and really want to remain your wife. I didn't say you weren't right for me, because that would have been a lie. You were the best lover I've ever been with. You have always loved me more and longer than anyone else. The problem is not you. The fact is that I am addicted to sex, and I need much more than 5 men can give. I had sex with 20 or 25 men, and when they all couldn't continue, I still wanted more. I love you, Jerry, and I wanted to be with you all my life. That's why I married you. I thought I could keep you in the dark about my affairs, and you must admit that I succeeded. For 16 years we had, by your standards, an ideal marriage. And it's true, I have been a loving wife to you from the moment I said, I do, and that has not changed. I was a great wife and mother, Jerry, and you can't deny that. The fact that I was involved in other things did not affect our marriage. Of course it did. You gave me gonorrhea, and after I was cured, I had to start using condoms so I wouldn't get anything else. And because you don't like condoms, you've reduced our sex life from 5 or 6 times a week to twice. I'm sure you would stop having sex with me altogether if you could, but you're too smart to realize that would make me suspicious. But we can work it out, she quickly interjected. I'll go to the clinic tomorrow and start treatment. Once I'm cured, we can go back to 5 or 6 or more times a week because condoms won't be needed anymore. No, they will be needed. Why? She asked, confused. Because now I know what an easily accessible girl you are, and I will never have sex with you without protection again. This doesn't make sense, Jerry. The disease will pass. I'll be clean. Maybe you can cure the one you have now, but what about the next one? You hate condoms and let everyone have you without protection. You won't stop cheating on me, Cindy, and don't waste time telling me you will stop. If you could stop, you would have done it a long time ago. You're not stupid, Cindy. You always knew that one day I might find out about your adventures, but you didn't care, because you were sure that I loved you so much that I would not leave you and would forgive you. I'm not going to leave, but there will be no forgiveness. And one more thing, check our social calendar. I'm not going to attend any events where the men on the list you gave me might be there. I don't want to be close to those who were my friends and who betrayed me. I don't want to risk going to jail for attacking one of them. You can't be serious, she exclaimed in horror. Of course, seriously. You must go to Tony and Mary's wedding. You're Tony's best man. I agreed to this before you added Tony's name to the list. This list changes everything. I'm not even sure Mary will want to marry Tony after I tell her what he did to you. You can't be that cruel, she said through tears. What's cruel about telling her what a scoundrel her fiancé is? If he could betray me, his best friend, how could she expect him to be faithful to her after marriage? It doesn't matter. What they did before marriage should not be anyone's business. Maybe, but she should at least know that you probably gave him gonorrhea and he could pass it on to her. Maybe he's already done it. In fact, I plan to warn all the wives and girlfriends on your list that they should get checked by a doctor. Some people may not need to say anything, they already know this from their own experience. You can't hate me that much, Jerry. You know that this will make me an outcast in society. It's not my problem, Cindy. You didn't think about it when you had sex with everyone without thinking about the consequences. Tears flowed from her eyes. She began to sob and ran out of the room. She can't believe that I'm capable of doing this to her, I thought. After what she's done behind my back these past 16 years, she can't believe that I would want to hurt her. She did it herself, and now she will have to live with it. I turned off the recorder and went to bed. When I woke up in the morning, Cindy was not in bed next to me. I got up, got dressed for work, and went downstairs where I found her sleeping on the sofa. I woke her up and told her it was time to wake up the children and get them ready for school, and then I left the house. I had a toasty breakfast and a coffee at the village inn, and then went to work. It had been a stressful day, and I had pushed Cindy to the back of my mind. On the way home that evening, I wondered what I would find when I got home. What I found was a little southern of the unreal. Sin greeted me with a hug and a kiss and told me dinner would be ready in 15 minutes. She showed no signs that things between us were no longer the same as they were before I discovered her hobby. I went into the living room and played with the children until we were called for dinner. Dinner was no different from usual. The kids told us about their day, and towards the end of dinner, Alan asked me if I could help him with the model airplane he was building, and I told him I would do it as soon as I finished helping his mother clean up dinner. Sin washed her face, and I dried off, and Sin talked about her day at work and said she was on the committee organizing the company Christmas party. She told me the date, time, and place, and I just nodded and remained silent. She apparently forgot that I told her that I would not attend any event where one of her lovers might be present. I don't know if she slept with any of her other coworkers, but I knew she made her boss, and since he owned the company, you could bet he'd be there and I wouldn't go. I let Sin know about it when it was time to leave, or maybe earlier when I brought information to Mary's attention about what Sin was doing with Tony and the wedding was called off. After the dishes were washed, I helped Alan with his model airplane and then spent some time with Carol and James. Carol was 12, maybe 13, and already interested in boys. I could just imagine the problems it would bring into my life. When I got to the bedroom to get ready for bed, I found Zing waiting for me with a condom in his hand. Well, I told Addie that one of the reasons I was going to stay with Cindy was so that I could still be sexually active. I undressed, took the condom from her, put it on, and did my job. I was surprised when I succeeded and Sin pounced on me to pick me up again. The only thing I knew was that no matter how I felt about Cindy after finding out about her other life, I wasn't going to give up what I could get. As mentioned earlier, I had already made the decision to stay married and have sex with Cindy until my youngest was ready to leave the nest. After I showered, I got into bed and Cindy snuggled up to me and said, "We'll get through this, lover. We'll be okay. I love you." I didn't say anything and just lay there until sleep took me. My reign of terror began the next day. I used some of my computer time and took 2 days off from work. I had a list of names, and since most of them were friends I had known for a long time, I knew a lot about them. I knew which of them had their wives at home and where the others' wives worked. My first call was to Tony's appointment. I stopped by where she was working and asked her when her coffee break was, and she told me any time she decided to take it, and then wanted to know why I asked. "I need a minute of your time to discuss something about your wedding." Her eyes looked up, and she told me that there was a cafe in the basement of the building, so we went down there, got coffee, and sat down at a table. "So what part of the wedding are we going to talk about?" "About whether you want to follow through with this." "What?" "I'll give you a choice, leave or go through with it." I took the mini cassette player out of my pocket, placed it on the table, and pressed play. I was sitting and watching Mary listen to my conversation when I ran into Cindy. I was a little surprised at how calm she took it. When the guy passed the point where Cindy called Tony, I turned off the recorder. Mary didn't seem the least bit upset by what she had just heard. She looked at me and then said, "So you finally found out. I wonder if you'll ever find out. You know, for many years now, Tony and I have a pretty unique lifestyle. We have an open relationship. He's free to date other women, and I'm free to date other guys. You knew and didn't tell me. I always thought you guys were my friends. We are Jerry. We think of you as the world. At first we thought you knew, but you let Cindy have her fun because you couldn't keep up with her. God, Jerry, I honestly don't believe there is a single person alive who could keep up with her and satisfy her sexual needs. When I told Cindy that it was only fair that since she was doing the Tonys I should take care of you, then she told us that you didn't know and that she didn't want you to know because she didn't believe that you can. Tony and I discussed this and decided not to say a word to you. We both felt that if we told you that we would lose your friendship, I believe that now you know that Cindy will not be the entertainment at Tony's bachelor party." I stood up, took the recorder and said, "Whether she does it or not will depend on her. I hope she does," and left without saying a word about Cindy's social illness. Hopefully she'll give this to everyone at Tony's bachelor party, but of course many of them might have already picked it up from her. My meeting with Mary changed the way I approached the other wives and girlfriends on the list. I have decided not to host in-person meetings anymore. Who knows how many of them already knew about everything. After I talked to Eddie and Mary, I knew I didn't want to face this anymore. I went to an electronics store and bought another mini recorder and some cassette tapes. Then I went back to work, where in my office I made copies of the recording of my conversation with Cindy. I planned to deliver them personally to make sure the tapes went to the women and not their men. I included a note with each tape that read, "Unprotected sex can lead to a lot of sexually transmitted diseases these days, and Cindy hates condoms. She gave me gonorrhea, and I think you should get checked by a doctor." Now everything was at their discretion whether it was worth checking or not. It took me almost a week to deliver all the tapes. But even before I handed out the last one, Cindy began receiving calls from angry wives and girlfriends, as well as some men who scolded her for infecting them. For 3 days after my meeting with Mary, Cindy tried to squeeze everything she could out of me in bed, as if trying to prove her devotion to me through sex. But on the 4th day, when I returned home, everything changed. "You did it," she shouted as soon as I entered the house. "You damn bastard actually did it. How could you do this to the woman you claim to love?" "Maybe it's better to ask another question," I answered calmly. "How could a woman who claims to love me to death betray me for 16 years and infect me with a venereal disease? But in our time, there is such a thing as AIDS. Maybe you really tried to kill me with sex." I turned away from her and went upstairs to the bedroom. Cindy didn't come to my bed that night, and in the morning I found her again on the couch. The next 2 days were pretty cold between us, but then everything went back to normal. She acted as if nothing had happened and again did everything she could to please me in bed. I received several calls from men who were clearly unhappy that their wives found out what they were doing behind my back. Some threatened me, saying that they would deal with me when they met. I laughed back at them and told them they could try, but make sure their health insurance was in order. I also received 7 calls from women who thanked me for the warning, and 3 of them even offered to meet for revenge to make up for what their husbands had done. Tony's bachelor party day came while I was at a 3-day conference in New York. The conference had been planned months in advance, and now that I knew that Cindy was going to be the entertainment at the party, I suspected that the party had been planned specifically with the fact that I would be out of town in mind. I don't know if she was there, but I didn't want to check. Unlike before, I no longer called her every evening from business trips. When I got home on Friday, Cindy greeted me warmly, and as soon as I was in the house, she dragged me to bed. On Saturday morning, she woke me up with sex, which was quite unexpected for such an early hour. I looked at my watch. It was only 7 in the morning. "Why did you wake me up so early?" I asked. "You know that on weekends I like to sleep longer. We need to start the day early. You need to pick up your tuxedo and—" Stop, I interrupted her. "Why do I need a tuxedo?" "To Tony's wedding, stupid," she said with a slight smile. "We have to be at church by 10, and we still have a lot to do before that." "You may have a lot to do, but I don't," I answered calmly. "I already told you that I won't go to events where there might be men you slept with. And Tony will be at this wedding." "But you have to go, you're the best man," she said, her smile fading slightly. "I doubt he's expecting me to come," I said. "After I talked to Mary, he knows where I keep him on my friends list." "He's waiting for you," Cindy insisted. "How do you know?" I already suspected that she attended the bachelor party. "I talked to him on Wednesday," she replied, trying to hide her excitement. "Well, he'll get over it," I said and headed to the bathroom. When I came out, Cindy was sitting on the edge of the bed with her phone in her hand. She handed it to me and said, "This is Tony. He wants to talk to you." I picked up the phone and without hesitation said, "You may want to talk, but I don't want to. Eat shit and die," and returned the phone to Cindy. After that, I went down to the kitchen and put on the coffee. While it was cooking, I went to see where the children were, but they were not at home. When Cindy came into the kitchen, I asked her where the children were, and she said that she had taken them to her mother's the night before so that we would have a free day for the wedding and party. She poured herself a cup of coffee and sat down at the table opposite me. "I'll go anyway," she said, "with or without you." "Then go," I said coldly. "You deserve what might happen." "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I mean, there might be wives and girlfriends of the men you slept with at the wedding, and they might want to settle scores. Although maybe those guys you were with at Tony's bachelor party can protect you." Her face turned pale, but she did not deny my words. I took my keys, went to the car, put my golf bag in the trunk, and drove to the golf course. Epilogue. Cindy actually went to the wedding and party. Several of the wives and girlfriends I mentioned actually tried to settle scores with her. After 3 confrontations, Cindy was asked to leave the event. Over the next 2 months, I encountered several men whose wives and girlfriends had received recordings from me. On my personal counter, there were 12 victories against 2 defeats, that is, in fights I came out victorious in most cases. As word of my victories spread, the other men I had angered began to stay away from me. One of those 12 was Tony. He found me at Riley's and accused me of ruining his wedding. Then he hit me, but I just grinned, replied, "Thank you for the opportunity," and beat him good. This happened in front of 17 witnesses, and when the police arrived, they all said that I was simply defending myself. Tony was arrested for assault. I sued him, and he got 9 months in prison. Cindy and I's marriage continued in the same pattern that I had described to Eddie when we first met, but it did not last until Alan's 18th birthday. Cindy was cured of her venereal disease, but she did not stop cheating on me and continued to have sex without condoms. She ended up getting sick again and unfortunately contracted HIV. At that point, I kicked her out of the house, got a restraining order against her children, and filed for divorce. The court gave me temporary custody of the children to protect them from Cindy and her illness. I was waiting for the divorce on pins and needles, afraid that she could infect me too, despite the fact that I always used a condom and did not kiss her after I found out about her infidelity. I was tested every month for 7 months, and in the end, the doctors said that the likelihood of infection was extremely low. But even extremely small is not the same as impossible, so the anxiety still remains. During the divorce, Cindy was given limited visitation rights with her children. Her visits with them were to be supervised by Child Protective Services, and she was not allowed to touch the children. No physical contact, no hugs, no kisses, no nothing. The time between visits was getting longer and longer, and I predict that soon they will stop altogether. I don't know if I'll marry again. There are not many women who want to connect their lives with a man who already has 3 children. I've heard that single mothers have the same problem. Maybe I should pay attention to them. As for my personal life, it is not over. I accepted offers from several women for the revenge through sex I mentioned earlier. Eddie became my friend with benefits, and at some point Mary, Tony's wife, joined in. She came to me one day with a medical report confirming that she was healthy and said that now it was my turn to satisfy her since I sent Tony to prison. They always roll their eyes when they see me putting on a condom. I too prefer the skin-to-skin feel, but my experience with Cindy has made me a strong proponent of protection. As they say, an ounce of precaution is worth a pound of cure. But I've noticed that none of my friends are showing any signs that they're moving away from me yet. Thus ended my ideal life with a woman whom I once loved and considered an ideal wife. It's hard to believe that the love I felt for Cindy could survive everything I've learned. Now I know that happiness is often just an illusion that we build in our heads until the truth comes out.